This is Crystal, and she has got quite an initiative in helping people learn more about mango varieties and how to preserve good varieties, propagate them, and also so they can have nice fruit.
Yeah, and we're here. We drove about an hour from where our houses are, and we're in Canal Point at Erickson's Farm. And Walter has a job here of grafting, top working some of these mango trees. And so we're here to watch them graft.
All right.
And learn.
This tree has been in the process for well over a year, because to begin with, on these big trees that have been in the ground for, maybe 20, 30 years, to change a big tree over, the process is to cut off some of the major limbs, and then the other little limbs that grow out, when they're a reasonable size for grafting, we put the scions on them and graft them out. Now, this particular variety, the pick that I'm putting on here, is one that it tends to bear when it's a very small tree and they hang down. And Mr. Erickson here had problems with them when they were little plants, because they'd start fruiting, all the fruit would be on the ground. So he specifically asked to graft them up higher, get some up higher. So that's what we're doing, putting them up here chest high, or as high as I can reach. So when the limbs load up with fruit, they'll still be up off the ground. These are the scions, S-C-I-O-N-S, plural. It's the pieces of the wood of the variety that is desired to be top worked onto another rootstock. And I have chosen wood that is, let me see if this may not, just get a handful out so you'll see an example. Might be better. But I tried to select wood that is straight, and these are from the tips where actually there had been bloom this season, except no, this one right here did not bloom. This is a terminal that is swollen. It hasn't begun to flush out yet. These others are well mature, and it's just a matter of probably a week or so at most. Actually, the eye on this one is showing a lighter color, so they're soon to flush out if they were left on the original tree. But we're going to put them on this, put some on one of the other of these. Let's see, I don't mind trying them on both for experience here. I'll put that smaller one on this limb so we can see it, and then we'll choose one of those others for the other. Now, my knives I protect and keep them dedicated only for grafting work, and quite occasionally I sterilize them by dipping them in alcohol. The knife I use for cutting the bark is not as, it's got a different shaped blade than the grafting knife. The blade on this is just like a regular paring knife, and it tapers from both sides, and it's sharp, but it's not exceptionally sharp, but it is smooth. It doesn't have nicks in it. And what I do with this is to remove the bark just down to where the cambium layer is, which is that little area between the wood and the bark where the juices flow down there. It's important that it be that far and no farther. And it's a common mistake to cut too far or not deep enough. And I have to look at it and see if that looks right. This is too shallow up here. I'm going to go in there again. Some of this you learn by feel. There, that's better. There, that's better. There, that's better. That's where the bark ends and the wood begins below this damp, juicy area there. That's where the growth will take place. It's important that be exposed, and when the scion is cut to go in there, let's see, that's about the right length. We try to cut so we do the least amount of damage to losing eyes on here. And it's hard wood. It takes practice to build up your strength in your hand to be able to control the knife pulling through that tougher wood. And you try to get a perfectly smooth, flat cut there, and then I trim off the base of it with a little. Actually, this may seem to be such an important part, but it really isn't. But having a little wedge at the bottom of it to set where the bark was removed does help. I don't want to block the view, but I want to see on the other side to see that I have that centered as much as possible in there. And this is where I always wish I had helpers to put their thumb there while I start the wrapping around, but I make do with what I have to do. And then I get a length of tape to work with. Well, this is pre-measured, I see.
End of the roll.
Yep. And we just the purpose of this is to hold the thing in place and to keep the moisture in there so it doesn't dehydrate and dry out. And we just wrap it around it. This particular tape has no adhesive on it. It's a stretchy type of tape, and it's tough. The eyes will not sprout and grow through it. It takes a follow-up work. That doesn't feel like it's staying right. It needs to be down there flat. Anyway, pull it too hard, it'll break. No, we can't do mass production this way. It seems to always be a tedious job, but it is a method of saving the variety that you might happen to come across somewhere and you want to get a start of it, and you can get a piece of wood that's in the proper condition and take it to another tree that's in a good condition. You can save a variety from extinction. And one of the things I'll demonstrate here, I like to do this in some cases where it's more necessary than it is on this particular scion. I wrap it in two stages. I leave the top exposed and tie it off. That will allow you to unwrap it later as you see the top bud sprouting out, without having to undo the rest of the graft and risk its breaking loose prematurely. Now, is that centered pretty good? We'll live with that. Then we'll just wrap the rest of it on up and tie it off. And it's no big deal and no special knots you'll need to learn here, but it is nice to do a slip knot. If you could see what I'm doing here, when they leave enough tape at the end, I just pull a slip knot through and tie it off that way. If I want to go undo it, I can just pull that loose and unwrap it. All right, shall we do another one? Oh, this brings up another point I'd like to mention. When putting grafts or seeking a position of where to put a graft on a tree, experience has taught me that mangoes can sunburn. Mango trees can sunburn. Their limbs can sunburn. And there's ways of preventing that. And the simplest thing when you're grafting is figure out where the bright sunlight is going to hit it, and if possible, you put your grafts on the side away from where it would sunburn. So I try to put them either on the east or the north side, not on the afternoon sun where that afternoon sun can cook them. Put my glasses on so I can see right. In this particular case, I'm going to foggy glasses. That's clear. I'm going to put the grafts on the east side. Oh, this comes really nice. You see, this is bark. All of the bark is right in here, and there's where the juice flows between the wood and the bark. And we'll get a little scion and cut it and lay it up in there. And if I can find that one that had the tip that was growing. This is it right here. Now this blade is all cut down on one side. The back side is perfectly flat, and there's no nicks in it. And so it doesn't need to be that full length. I'll just cut that back part off. Can't stretch my hand out that far anyway. And let's see. The least amount of eyes damage will be on this side, I think. Get it aimed right to begin with. It's nice so you can keep a nice straight cut. It's every bit as challenging as trying to be a good shot with a rifle, making small little corrections at the point of beginning. How's that for a comment? Anyway, we got that scion in place, cut there, and I'm gonna secure it with this poly tape. And made for this purpose. This tape happens to be 1 inch wide. I like it that size. And this tip up here will probably start pushing out within the month. So in this case particularly, I want to do it in 2 stages. Or if I make a mistake and have the tape cut too short, I just tie it off and then start with another piece of tape and go on top. So it's not a big deal. But it keeps it so that the bottom part stays wrapped. And I don't pull that really so awful tight there, because when that tip comes out, it's nice for it to make some leaves underneath there, or you can see it without it just being squished down and snuffed out. You see that okay? Good.